All right, so this week, let's take a deep dive into what's happening in the Faroe Islands. We've got reports on, well, it looks like some wild weather, a bit of politics, and even some sports.
Sounds like a well-rounded look at what's going on.
So let's get started with what about these storms? Some pretty serious weather hitting the islands recently, huh?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of reports coming in about some strong winds, high winds, causing quite a bit of damage. Actually, 67 official reports.
67, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's not insignificant. Sandiviger seems to be the hardest hit from what we're seeing.
Wow, Standavaga. Okay, well, so what are they doing to, recover from all this?
Well, Landsverk, that's the Faroes Public Works Department, they've been busy. They've got crews out, clearing roads and salting.
Icy conditions, I imagine.
Yeah, a lot of ice. And the police are advising people to be super cautious, especially on the roads.
Yes, safety first. Always good advice. Okay, well, let's move on. Maybe talk a little politics. Looks like fishing agreements are kind of a hot topic this week.
Yeah, they're front and center. Looks like negotiations for a new fishing agreement with Russia are underway.
Russia, huh? Interesting. Anything else going on in the fishing world?
Well, there's a new fishing agreement. This one's between the Faroe Islands and Greenland, and that one's actually been finalized.
Oh, okay. So one down, one to go.
Exactly.
And what else is going on politically? Anything else catch your eye?
Well, there's been some talk, about the potential impact of the EU sanctions on the Faroe Islands, especially as it relates to these fishing agreements.
Right.
But, it's early. Nothing concrete really coming out of the sources yet.
All right. So all very much in flux, as they say. Well, let's shift gears again. How about some economics? Any interesting financial news this week?
Yeah, for sure. Loan growth rate for Faroes banks, it was at 4.3% in September.
September, okay.
And there was a deposit surplus of 1.4 billion DKK in that same month.
Okay, so moving in the right direction, it seems. Anything on specific banks making news?
Yeah, Faroe Bank, they're expecting to pay out 700 million DKK in dividends over the next 3 years.
All right, interesting. Okay, well, you know me, I got to ask about sports. What's the latest in the football world?
No, the Faroes national team, they had kind of a mixed bag in the UEFA Nations League. They beat Armenia.
Always good to hear about a Faroes victory.
But then they lost to North Macedonia.
Yeah, well, can't win them, all right. Any big matches coming up that we should be watching for?
There is an EM qualifier coming up against Denmark.
Denmark, huh?
And they recently won against the Netherlands, so they're going to be tough competition.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else happening sports-wise?
Well, handball. The Faroes team lost to Sweden B. Very close match, though.
Oh, that's always tough, losing by a hair.
And in the Faxkondi Men's Handball League, H71, they dominated.
It dominated, okay.
Against Team Klaksvik.
All right, well, wins and losses, that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move on, I guess we got to get a weather update. What's the latest?
Well, still high winds, icy conditions,
Right.
particularly in Torshavn.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Landsverk is recommending, they're saying, stay updated on the latest weather, road conditions, just for safety's sake.
Yeah, definitely good advice.
Yeah.
Always better to be safe than sorry.
Ah.
All right, well, I think we've hit the main points there. What's next on our deep dive agenda for today?
Well, COP29, the UN Climate Change Conference, big topic, lots of coverage, lots to unpack.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
So COP29, big climate conference. Anything that jumped out at you from the coverage?
The urgency, it's really striking how every article, it's like everyone agrees this is a serious problem.
Yeah.
But when it comes to solutions, not so much agreement there.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's some, reports of some progress, financial commitments to help developing nations with the effects of climate change.
Okay, that's good. That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing maybe not all good news, right?
Yeah. Well, there is some frustration from experts, feeling that the commitments, even though positive, they might not be enough given the scale, the urgency.
Right, right.
And there are concerns about the gap between, pledges and action, like lots of promises, but making them happen, that's the tough part.
Yeah, talk is cheap, right? Walking the walk. What about, closer to home, the Faroe Islands? Did any of the articles mention specific impacts?
Yeah, a couple of things came up. One article, it highlighted, the Faroe Islands, small island nation, they're pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
Rising sea levels, extreme weather, that's a big threat.
Yeah, a place like the Faroes, you would definitely feel those effects pretty strongly.
Definitely. And the article, it kind of argues for a two-pronged approach, The islands need to adapt to these changes, which seem inevitable,
Okay.
but at the same time, push for stronger global action.
So yeah, kind of like protecting themselves while also advocating for bigger solutions. What about What about the economics of it all? I mean, transitioning to, a more sustainable future, it can't be easy.
Right. One article focused on the fishing industry.
Okay.
Climate change, it could shift fish stocks, ocean conditions,
Yeah.
and that could disrupt traditional fishing.
Fishing is a huge part of the Faroese economy, though.
Right.
Are they suggesting, like, just give it up completely?
No, not at all. It's more about like sustainable practices, investing in research, tech to monitor these changes and then adapt.
Okay.
Finding that balance, preserving tradition, but embracing innovation to make sure the industry survives long term.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a tough issue. Not a lot of easy answers there.
No, it is complex. And it's not just the Faroe Islands. A lot of industries globally are facing this, as the climate changes.
Okay, so we've talked about international news and how it could affect the Faroe Islands. What about news that's a little closer to home? What's happening within the islands themselves?
Well, there's been some developments on the political front. The school system, they're facing some budget cuts. Looks like they'll be eliminating 8 teaching positions.
8 positions. Wow, that's a big cut. What's the reaction been?
Well, there's concern. Educators, parents, everyone's worried about how it's going to affect the quality of education.
Right.
And of course, with the municipal elections coming up, this is a big campaign issue.
Yeah, I bet it's a hot topic for voters. Anything else politically that we should know about?
Well, there have been some changes in local politics. Shovar, the municipality of Shovar, they have a new council. They just finished assigning all the roles and responsibilities.
Okay, so fresh faces, new ideas, interesting. What's going on nationally? Any updates from the Ting, the parliament?
Well, they've been discussing, the situation with Russia, the fishing agreement negotiations. Some are saying, let's be cautious,
Okay.
given those EU sanctions potential implications.
Yeah, definitely a balancing act, economics and international relations all mixed in there. Anything else being debated right now?
Well, government financial policies getting some scrutiny, specifically a decision to give financial support to Tuttle, a Faroese record label.
Tuttle. Okay.
Some people are for it, saying, Tuttle promotes Faroese culture, it deserves support.
Right.
Opponents, they question whether it's fair to other parts of the music industry.
It's a complex issue. I can see both sides. It's good these discussions are happening, though, right? Shows that people are engaged.
Absolutely. That's what a healthy democracy is all about.
Speaking of a vibrant cultural scene, what about arts and culture? Any notable events or happenings?
Well, Finnleif Mortensen, a Faroese artist, they opened up their studio to the public, giving people a peek into their process.
Cool.
They're known for, incorporating nature, Faroese folklore into their work.
Interesting. What else is going on?
Riensari, that's a popular music venue in Tórshavn, had a big concert, their 10th anniversary.
Wow.
Featured a bunch of local Faroese artists, all kinds of musical styles.
A decade of music? That's a big milestone. Okay, well, any unfortunate news to report?
Sadly, yes. A man was arrested, charged with attempted murder.
Oh, wow.
Court proceedings are ongoing. Details are limited, since it's an active case.
Yeah, of course. It's a reminder that even in a peaceful place like the Faroes, these things can happen. Any good news to share? Anything uplifting?
There was a nice story, a lost wedding ring. It was found and returned to the owner.
Oh, that's great.
Just a small act of kindness, but it shows how strong the community is in the Faroe Island.
I love those kinds of stories. Okay, any other news we should touch on?
Well, more on the weather front.
Oh, no, more storms.
Not storms, but there's a warning out. Extremely slippery conditions, especially in Tórshavn.
Winter's coming.
Good reminder for everyone, check those weather updates, road conditions from Landsverk.
Good advice. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Yeah. International news, local politics, some good news, some bad news. What's next on our list for today?
Well, let's talk about the challenges and opportunities of attracting people back to the Faroe Islands. That's been generating a lot of discussion.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm curious to hear what our sources have to say about that. So, attracting people back to the Faroe Islands, huh? Interesting topic. I mean, a lot of Faroes people, they end up living abroad, right? At some point.
Yeah, definitely a trend that's been going on for a while. And one of the sources we have actually dives into this, the reasons behind it.
What does it say? Like, what are the big reasons that people leave?
Historically, it seems like it was mostly a lack of opportunity.
Okay.
Jobs, education, that kind of thing. People felt like they had to go somewhere else to achieve their goals, pursue their dreams.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. If you can't find what you need at home, you got to go look somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it seems like things are getting better in the Faroe Islands, though. There's been a lot of growth, development, new industries even.
Yeah. And the article acknowledges that. It mentions, new industries focus on education, skills development. But they also say, even with all that, young people are still leaving.
So it's got to be more than just opportunity then, right? Like what else is going on?
Well, the article points out that a lot of Ferris people living abroad, they end up, building a life somewhere else.
Right.
Careers, families, they make connections, really become part of the community. So it's less about like rejecting the Faroe Islands
Yeah.
and more about putting down roots somewhere new.
Right. Yeah. When you've built a whole life for yourself somewhere, it's hard to leave, even if you miss home.
Exactly. So the article is saying if you want to attract people back, it's not enough to just create opportunities.
Okay.
You have to create an environment that can compete with what they already have somewhere
Yeah.
else.
It's got to be the whole package then, right? Community, lifestyle, that sense of belonging.
Right. And the article talks about some things that are already happening, like that new public housing scheme to help provide affordable housing for students.
Okay.
And their author is saying, create a student life that's really appealing. Maybe look at models like the Øresundskollegium in Copenhagen for inspiration.
Makes sense. Having a good social network, feeling supported, especially if you're young and in a new place, that's huge. What about people who aren't students anymore? How do you attract them back?
Well, for people who are already established in their careers, it's more about supporting entrepreneurship, being welcoming to families,
Yeah.
and showing off that unique quality of life that the Faroe Islands has.
Right. The benefits of living in a place that has both community and incredible nature.
Exactly. And it all comes back to what makes the Faroe Islands special. Tradition and modern life together. Nature is everywhere. Community ties are strong.
Well, it's been really fascinating exploring all these different parts of life in the Faroe Islands today. Stormy weather, political discussions, economic changes, those heartwarming stories of community. It's a place that's always changing, but it holds on to what makes it unique.
It really does. And that mix of tradition and progress is what makes it so captivating.
Well said. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into what's happening in the Faroe Islands.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you.